I'd like to introduce you to the Director of Extension, Dr. O'Neill, who will introduce the President.
Thanks, Stephen. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming out. We're really pleased to be partners with CLIR in this endeavor, and we're very excited to have President Herbst here as our speaker. As you know, she's been leading the flagship university of the system for 6 years?
Yeah, just about 6. Almost
6 years.
Yeah, I know,
And
it went longer.
what a fantastic opportunity and you know, sequence of events that we've had. UConn 2000 was getting underway, and now we have like a next generation UConn.
Yeah.
And so things are just moving really greatly at the university. We're very happy and pleased, and under the leadership of President Herbst, and she's here to talk to us about all kinds of good things, I hope. And we're very pleased to have her here, and we're very excited for Extension and CLIR to be partners in this endeavor. Thanks, folks.
Thank you. It's great to be here. So this, I think April is the busiest month for people like me, the provost, the deans, and the reason is that, well,
Wait,
commencement.
I forgot to hook you up, because some of us do not hear as well as others. So
Sure.
this was on your ear,
Okay.
on your ears.
Oh, okay, this is like I'm gonna be in the, in CRT in a musical. Right, and you can barely see there, right?
Where is it?
Right,
That goes on the left. Okay, like this.
Oh, like
Goes behind,
this?
Yes.
Oh, is that how they do it?
And that will come over your ear.
Very cool.
Oh, that didn't work.
Oh, I can just talk into it like, where's the, is this the actual?
Yeah, and that goes on their left, so this will come behind your head.
Or I
like
can just,
this.
I'll just hold it, so
Oh,
this is the
okay.
actual mic. Does that sound like something? Does that sound, yeah, it's, oh, yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks, so, where was I? Oh, it's a busy month, April, because we're gearing toward commencement, but mostly because everybody wants their own business done before May. And so it is very important for the faculty to close down, you know, most of their business, their administrative business that they have, and work with the departments, which takes the deans, which takes the provost, which takes me, because they want to go off in the summer and do their research and travel. And that time is very precious to them. So there's that, and then the students are leaving. And, you know, we have some that stay around, but for those of you who are like me, who live in stores, you know that it gets really quiet, and that's not so bad. I mean, you feel like in the dead of August, you feel like, okay, there could be a few more people here, right? But my husband and I, there's like late July, early August, I feel like we could walk down the middle of 195, you know, for a while without having to dodge a car. But it's really nice, it's really peaceful, and then we get to start all over again. So big things going on at the university. You know, hopefully you've been able to read about a lot of it, and you know, there's a lot of fake news about us, and horrible things that people say and accusations. So I love when I have these meetings where people can tell me, you know, I read X, Y, Z. Is that really true, or have you thought about this? So I'm happy to talk about things you saw in the paper, that you heard, that you might be concerned about or excited about. But big things we're working on, there are a lot of building projects, and that's true for any university that's getting investment from their donors, from their state, in the case of public university. For us, this summer is big. So we've got the new engineering building, so that's going up just behind the current engineering building. It's a big blue and silver thing. It's kind of squeezed in back there, so if you're not looking for it, you actually might miss it, but it's a huge building. Clean rooms, a lot of lab space for faculty and students in engineering. We have that building on the new road, what is it called, Discovery Drive. So that's called the Innovation Partnership Building. That's also, it's all science and engineering, and it is a place where industry partners that we have, UTC, Comcast, institutions like that, are pairing with our own faculty on research projects. So that's a knockout, beautiful building that'll open in August. So a lot of work on that, and hopefully you like that new road. You know, that was overdue. Put aside the building, we really needed that road, I think, to relieve some of the traffic on campus, and I think they did a great job with it from a sustainability standpoint. So it's really pretty and a good way to to campus. So those two projects in Stamford, on the Stamford campus, if those of you who have been there know the area, it's really buzzing. A lot of our students want to live and in Stamford and go to school there, but they can't afford those rents. I mean, those rents are super high because they're competing with people who work in New York. So we worked with a developer, we were giving some subsidies so that he could build a building for us that would have student apartments in it. It's gonna open this summer, and the students are clamoring to get in there. So this is the first housing venture that we have done at a regional campus. I think we were aiming for 290 beds in there, 290 students, and I'm told we already have over 300 applications, and that's not even, they don't have to sign up till mid to late summer. So we're very happy about that, because that will be transformative for that campus and the students who want to go there. I mean, we've got, unless you want to do science or engineering, you can finish a lot of degrees on the regional campuses. You know, science and engineering are tough, where you really need labs and you really do need to come to stores, but for a lot of the humanities and the social sciences, you could complete your whole degree at Hartford or Stanford or Avery Point or Waterbury. And so speaking of Hartford, that is one of the best things we'll do. So I don't know if you've been to around the convention center lately, downtown Hartford, but we are shutting down the campus, the Greater Hartford campus in West Hartford, and it's in some disrepair, and really wasn't worth investing in. And Hartford, on the other hand, desperately needs people and investment, and we really feel like it's partly our responsibility to keep this capital city afloat. And we'll be bringing, as of August, thousands of faculty, staff, students there every day. Also a spectacular building that maintains those, for those of you who are longtime Hartford area people, those pillars that front the Hartford Times building. We preserved those to the cost of, I think it was another $5 or $6 million just to keep those properly stabilized. But it was really important to the city. And it's a building forever, hopefully. And it has to, the nice thing about those columns out front on this building, and then the building is very kind of imaginative and modern behind that, but still it resonates with the Wadsworth, which is a gorgeous building, and the City Hall, another beautiful building. So we're trying to keep with the architecture of that area and bring a lot of foot traffic to downtown Hartford. So we're purposefully not having any food service in the building. I mean, there'll be some vending machines, like you wouldn't starve to death in there, but we really do want students, faculty, we want people going out for food, going out for lunch, taking their lunch outside, and getting traffic on the street. Barnes & Noble is opening a bookstore right next to the campus, which is critical to our students and the community. It'll be the first bookstore opening in Hartford in many, many decades, and people who've been here a long time can barely remember when there was such a thing. So that's a very big, important project for us. So those are the buildings. The people. The people are what make this place, what make UConn. We continue to hire more and more faculty. I heard that you had some of our newer faculty here recently. Somebody from the history department was here yesterday or the day before. So you see the kind of great people we bring in, senior people, junior people. We really love to steal. We love, our faculty at all levels, and they all bring with them different talents, but we especially like to steal senior faculty from great places and bring them here, because they just hit the ground running and they're really experienced. So just moving up the East Coast over the last few years, we have stolen faculty, senior faculty, so these are tenured people from, across disciplines, from University of Miami, University of Virginia, North Carolina, Chapel Hill, Johns Hopkins, University of Maryland, Penn State, Dartmouth, Temple, you name it, Michigan State, Texas, all kinds of great places, and that's wonderful if you can do it, because you do want some very experienced senior faculty at any university to strengthen your programs, teaching and research. So we continue to hire faculty, not at the pace we would like, because I don't know if you've noticed, but the state budget is really is not yeah, I'm being filmed, right? So I'll watch my language, but yeah, we need to turn around. UConn is part of that. We hope to be a force for economic development, but as the governor, who's been very generous with us, and the legislature know we can only perform so well with, we need investment if we're gonna produce the kind of economic outcomes that they hope for. So, for example, if we're gonna start new industries here, new companies, in fact, they do start companies, they hire people, they innovate, they bring in federal grants, we can only do that if we have great faculty. So, we need that upfront investment to be this economic engine for the state in areas like material sciences or the life sciences and all the kind of the job producing disciplines that we support. All that said, I'm a political scientist, so I'm happy to talk about politics, the rest of the time if you want. But I've never produced a job. I mean, I'm not in one of those disciplines that where the professor starts a company, employs people, but obviously the humanities and the social sciences are deep in the heart of the university, and a liberal arts education is what we think is most important. I was talking with some people recently about STEM and why it gets so much attention, science, technology, engineering, and math. And the reason it gets so much attention is because it costs so much. We have now a world-class philosophy department that we've built over the last few years, and it's so great to hire world-class philosophers because all they need are their very modest salaries, their whiteboards, computer, some travel money, and then they go off and do great things and explore the big questions. Why do we do what we do? What does it mean to be alive? Why are we doing engineering? Why do we discover? Why do we invent? How do we seek social justice, equality, democracy, all the things that matter most? So I think STEM will always get a lot of attention because they will always have spectacular facilities, and it's what you need to do 21st century science. And are they going to do it right, or you're not going to do it? And we're a comprehensive research university, and that's the world we play in. So our students continue to thrive. They amaze me all the time. Okay, it's true that I mostly see the great students because the problematic students are usually working with the dean of students or with student affairs. So I am fortunate to meet with students who are doing great things, winning awards. But I do have student office hours, and I think they're coming up soon. Every couple of months, where it's just 2 or 3 hours where students can just show up to my office. Students get to me in all kinds of other ways too. I mean, since I live here, they find me in the Price Chopper, or I do answer my own email, they find me online, and so they're full of life, they have great ideas, and that's the wonderful thing about living in a university community is, things can get a little crazy because they're 20 years old, but they also have this life force, and you feel it throughout this community where they feel like they can do anything. And the future is so bright, and those of us who have been around for a while know that you can't do anything, and that life has obstacles and limitations, but they don't have that yet. No. And it's really pure, and it's contagious. I don't know if any of you were walking around campus yesterday or around town. It was like a prison break, wasn't it? I know. I don't know, where were all these people all winter, right? But they're just sheer joy of being alive. It's the reason that it's nice to work at a campus, to live near a campus, regardless of whether you teach or not. So anyway, happy to be here. Glad to answer questions, talk about the university, about politics. I don't know that I can tell you much more. As a political scientist, we've been terrible failures. We did not predict, the contemporary political scene, but we're trying to make sense of it like everybody else. So thanks. So questions? Yeah.
Tell us about the immigration issues and how are things
Sure.
cleared up so people can come and go?
Yeah, so we have sent out a lot of messages to our students. So we do have undocumented students, and we cannot tell for sure, but estimated probably about 100, 120 undocumented students, and they're very worried, as they should be. And so are all students from elsewhere, undergraduate and graduate, because of what they see swirling around in the national media, and because of some of the executive orders that have either been tried or talked about. DACA is the big one that we're concerned about. And that is it's basically a program that enables students to stay here for their course of education, from other countries. And if that were reversed, so that was an executive order by President Obama. If that were reversed, we really would have a huge problem here. But every university in the country would have it, as would every company in Silicon Valley. I mean, it would be very traumatic if we had that kind of immigration crackdown on students who are trying to go to college. So it looks to me as though that they're not touching DACA, at least for now, and all that stuff is slowed down. That would affect a college or university, but it doesn't mean that our students are less worried. I mean, they feel like it's a temporary reprieve, but they really don't know what's going to happen. One of the good things about being in my position is that, we have a governor who really cares about this, who is really concerned about undocumented students and immigrants to the state. The governor is ex officio chairman of the UConn board, so, we're right behind him. He's always in the lead, and you have a great attorney general also, so we're in a kind of a different position than I think some universities are, but the truth is every university in every state would be greatly affected by any kind of restriction on student immigration. So, we'll see. I mean, it's a worrisome time, and students they're afraid. Yeah.
You talked a little bit about investment of the university, the state, and businesses in the sciences. I'm wondering what UConn is doing, or is it UConn's role to retain those students? Because we hear a lot about students getting educated here, but then they go elsewhere to find jobs.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and we would like to build the workforce in Connecticut, the educated workforce, and that is a big part of our job as a flagship. We do really well. The students who come to UConn, it's hard to track these things because students, they're naughty about telling you where they went, after they left here. It's hard to track alumni, right? But we estimate about 80% of students who finish their degree at UConn stay and work in Connecticut. So that's excellent. So that means that it's really important for us to provide a good experience and for there to be jobs for them when they graduate. So there are jobs in the hot fields, as you can imagine. For example, we cannot produce enough engineers for UTC, Sikorsky, Electric Boat, the Pratt & Whitney. I mean, they have hundreds of openings. They need engineers all the time. Computer engineering, of course, is very hot. Any kind of financial risk management, that sort of thing for investment banks or hedge funds. Digital media, that's an area that we've invested in heavily, and where there are a lot of good jobs open at places like ESPN or Blue Sky or NBC Sports moved all their back office stuff to Stanford, I believe. As a matter of fact, if you watched the Olympics this past summer, they were broadcasting from Stamford, Connecticut all the time. So there are those kind of jobs open. Pharmaceuticals, there's a lot of places to get employed as long as we can bring students here, keep them happy. But one of the worrisome things about the state budget is when our budget gets cut this year, so we're expecting about a $40 to $50 million cut to our operating budget. It's quite bad. And we've been cut tens of millions of dollars over the last few years, but this is a big one. And so we're managing it, but there are two areas that it affects greatly, because we don't have a lot of discretionary money around the university anyway. Most of the money in a university, not just ours, is tied up with personnel, contracts that already exist. I mean, if you're on the tenured faculty, you're on the tenured faculty, at that salary forever, for as long as you'd like to work. And so that's not the money that we can play with, so we don't have a lot to work with. So where the discretionary money is in vacancies, not filling faculty or staff vacancies. That's a way to save money, and in financial aid. So that's really scary from this standpoint, because if we can't afford to get great students here because we can't give them good financial aid packages, they're not coming to UConn. You know, they're going elsewhere, and when they leave Connecticut for college, they usually don't come back. So we have to keep them here, we have to give them a good education, we have to make sure we have enough faculty so that they can finish their majors on time. Because the worst is that when a student is trying to complete a major and we don't have enough faculty to get the courses taught that they need to finish. So, you know, there's a lot to worry about. The governor, you know, if he had his way, of course he wouldn't cut us. I mean, he's invested tremendously, as have governors past in the university, but, you know, they need some good ideas. And most of it's above our pay grade in terms of, you know, what we can control. But it's, you know, it's the state needs a, you know, economic turnaround and new spirit. Yeah. Yeah?
Healthcare being a great issue in this country, remaining issue. What about the plans for nursing, allied health, and medicine?
Yeah, so those are three big fields for us. We just expanded the medical school and the dental school by about, I think, 20 or 30 students for each class. And that was made possible because we could expand some of the classroom buildings over on the Farmington campus. So things are going well at the medical school. With dental school is great. I mean, it's one of the best dental schools in the country. Medical school is excellent. It's very hard to get into because it's not a super huge entering class, even with our expansion. So I'd say we have a very fine dean there. I suggest you get all your health care at UConn Health. And it's really fabulous that we have it in stores now. I mean, hopefully you guys have been there and had a good experience. I think it's, you don't have all the specialties there, but some great doctors, really nice staff, very convenient. So things are going well in medicine, dentistry, nursing. It's a fine faculty. I hear from, all the hospitals in the state that they love to hire from UConn. They love our nurses. They're extremely well trained and smart and fabulous work ethic. So I think things are good in nursing. Allied health, or the health professions, that is a gigantic major. I mean, I think we have, it rivals psychology, which is traditionally the biggest major at this university, at every university. I don't know why. It's a great field, but it continues to be number one. But I would say allied health in very close second. And those are students who want to go on to the health professions. Some of them want to go into more the public policy part of it. Some of them want to go on to advanced degrees in physical therapy or fields like that. As you probably know, we have great speech and language pathology. That's another field that we really excel in. Very high demand for the program. We can only handle so many students. So, the governor on and off has said, he doesn't say it anymore so much, but can we make UConn bigger? Can we take more students? And we don't have the physical capacity for it, or the kind of the natural environment for taking many more students. In fact, we're going to take a slightly smaller freshman class this coming year because we have to be able to teach them. I mean, when you are not hiring so many faculty because of the budget, then you can't take as many students, or they won't get the classes they need when they need them. And we've got to be able to support our students. These days, I don't think it's any big secret that we have seen, very big rises in the demand for psychological services, for mental health services. Students today, the research is showing, are much more anxious than they ever have been before. And I can understand why. I mean, I see it in my own children who are millennial age, is, I don't know, with the social media and the world seeming so, things seem very ungrounded to them, even before, recent political events, that there's a lot of anxiety. I think a huge amount of it is social media induced, but probably not all of it. And so we have to be able to deal with that. And we have just, record demand for students wanting to see our psychologists, mental health professionals, and it's something the university feels responsible for, and something we have to do. So I was long-winded, but hopefully that helps. Yeah?
Understanding that the press loves what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah.
What does the universities in general, or UConn feel about an obligation to house lower classes, not lower class, students, rather than have them bleed into the community and create these problems that the newspapers love to pick up? It may be better than that or worse than that, but the newspapers love it. So
Yeah,
that's what we hear.
well, you have to tell me more about this. I mean, I know that we have heard from certain neighborhoods or communities, their concerns about students. I don't think it's lower income students necessarily moving off campus. I think
No, I didn't
it's,
mean class by that, but I meant class freshman, sophomore.
oh,
I just meant
underclass, yeah.
Supplying underclass, right.
Yeah. We have our academic jargon.
Yeah.
Yeah, underclass, well, we can't force students, to do what we want all the time, so I would prefer that underclassmen live on campus, but, legally, we can't force them to do that. I mean, some universities have freshmen required to live on campus, and, I don't know that there are many places that require much more than that, so you have limited control of it just because it's, it's America and people are free. In terms of our, how students behave in the communities is, I think, the big issue, because,
That's where it all ends.
yeah, that's right. And so, we need to keep getting feedback from the community, which I have to tell you is mixed. I mean, on the one hand, people are rightfully worried about property value. If they have a lot of, students living in their area as compared to families with children who are, paying taxes and going to school, it's, right, it lends a different, face to any neighborhood. On the other hand, I have a lot of our neighbors and friends in town, the students have been really great. They babysit for them, they're nice to have around, they're, generally good neighbors, so forth. So, it kind of runs the gamut, and we try to, and again, you gotta give us feedback when it's not working. We try with our police, with the state police to, make sure they're not engaged in behaviors, in neighborhoods that are problematic for the neighbors. But it's hard, you have, people own these properties, they rent them out to students. Again, it's their right to do that. And I think any university president, if they had their way, would like every single student living right in the bounded, part of campus, but it's usually not possible. So we need feedback on particular neighbors, particular neighborhoods, particular problems, and then we will work with students. And hopefully some of you have seen that, have had issues, have contacted us, have gotten some response. Is that, yeah?
Would there be room for all the students to live on campus?
We have plenty of room. That's not the issue. So, so this has come up, why don't we build more housing? That's not we have plenty of housing. Students are very attracted to some of this new housing that's off campus. And we have a lot of developers who are interested in this area. So, no, we have vacancy. I mean, when it comes to the, so we're not quite filled in September when new students arrive or students come back to campus. In January, because students graduate or there's attrition, we have a lot of vacancies.
Okay, so it could be that they would be able to live on campus.
Oh, absolutely. It's more the attraction of,
okay.
and I gotta say, I mean, it's funny because my own son went to school out in Chicago, and when he was a junior, he wanted to move out of the residence hall and, into Chicago, and, which is, as a mom, I was really crazy about that. It was really great. With a bunch of guys, he was sorry, after he graduated, and he was, and just being in an apartment, having to shop and having to cook and all that. He was sorry that he moved out of the dorm and out of the dining halls and all that, because then you don't have to worry about that stuff, and you're free to spend all your time, studying, so I'm always trying to encourage students to stay on campus as long as they want, but they want to get off on their own, and they are off on it, like they're not living with their parents, but they want to be, they want to have their own kitchen, they want to have their freedom and all that, and I don't know, I think it's overblown, but that's just my personal opinion. Yeah.
I've got a contrary opinion about some of the things we've been hearing about. I go for a long walk periodically. I live near Four Corners. I go by 8 or 10 houses that are pretty clearly occupied by students. Sometimes I stop and talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I've stopped and talked to them, it's been pleasant. They offered me a drink of water because it's a long walk. A couple of young men said that they'd be happy to shovel my driveway for me, that better for them than for me. And
Who are
once,
those guys?
and once, when I stopped and asked if the students living there to somebody who was just getting out of a car, guy got very concerned, and he said, yes, have we been too loud? Are you a neighbor? Have we been disturbing you? And they had not. But I've not seen any noise or parties or disruption. These are clearly people who wanted to control their environment, perhaps get away from a little of the noise on campus. But it's a pretty big area and zero problems.
No, that's excellent to hear. I mean, I think that's a big part of it is, and I think that most of our neighbors, they engage with the students, and then it goes better, just like it does with any neighbor. But, you know, I have a lot of patience for this because I've been in higher ed my whole life. You know, they are growing, they are learning. Our students here, and I've been all around the country, lots of different institutions, I have to say, I find the UConn students very respectful and generally civil. I mean, we haven't had, for example, you know, some of these campuses who have erupted over controversial speakers and that sort of thing. You know, we haven't had that, and I think it's because this is a pretty open place, it's a pretty civil place. I mean, you know, anything could happen at any time, you know, we're braced, but on the whole, you know, I think they're, you know, they make their mistakes, and, you know, we gotta remember their youth and try to think back if we had made any of those mistakes. And then I think that if you open up to them, then I think they are just incredibly respectful. And they also, you know, for those of you who taught or have worked with students, they are looking for adults. Like they like to talk to adults because they don't have a lot of them in their lives. I mean, their parents who don't know anything, right? Yeah, you can write them off or bracket them till later, right? So they get their parents, and they got the professors. You know, some professors spend a lot of time with them, some don't. Some of the professors, no matter how nice they are scary to the students. So when it's a neighbor or somebody in the community or a shopkeeper or an advisor, you know, reaches out to our students, they love that. I mean, they'll stand there and talk to you for a long time because they would like to connect with adults and they would like to get some direction. You know, they're not entirely grown up.
I have a question. I've been thinking about the transportation system and the fact that with students and who will be in Hartford and obviously Farmington and stores, that the traffic in this area right now, I think, is a lot denser than it was, and there's a lot more demand for parking. And I'm a real mass transit supporter. And is this fast track or any other program that is at least in development? Can it include UConn? Because it would have so many positive effects if people didn't have to own a car to go to college and who couldn't afford to live on campus, and not to mention environmentally or people at a certain age, myself included. I don't like to drive that much. I'm driving, on interstates, all these things. So, what's your realistic, assessment of the probability of real dependable transportation where people can go to Hartford for classes for enrichment or to catch a train to New York or, so these are,
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, so it's never gonna change, and I'm thinking it better change.
Yeah, I mean, it was the dream of our governor, starting out to develop more mass transit. That's really important to him. It's important to us. I think we're waiting on the funding to figure out whether we have a great Department of Transportation Commissioner who's really interested in working with UConn and comes here a lot. But, he has a plan whereby any student at any university will, basically be able to go by bus anywhere in the state for free. So that's the project that you're talking about. But I think the funding of it is uncertain right now. I think we have to wait till the legislative session shakes out. So there's that. The governor wanted to do high-speed rail through here. I mean, would that be amazing? So I guess it would come up, through maybe New Haven to Hartford, through here. And there are tracks, right, that go from here to, I guess, to Providence, or is it to Boston? Those, the tracks along the
rail trip.
It's a, yeah, where does that lead to?
You can't have my rail trip.
What's that?
You can't take my rail
No,
trip.
but there is an active rail.
Just watch out when the trains come.
There is an active rail that goes, it's freight railway.
Freight, yes.
It's like,
And-
it'd be upgraded, it'd be pretty expensive.
Yeah, but that, I know that when the commissioner was over here, that was, part of his dream. I mean, so much of this depends on the state budget. I mean, if the federal government does work on a big infrastructure project, as has been discussed on and off, and I don't know what is gonna get presented to Congress or get through Congress. Hopefully Connecticut was like, I mean, I think all states will be beneficiaries of it, but I know that the Department of Transportation would have, a lot of mass transit things to do with it, because, the self-driving cars are gonna be great. I mean, I think it's all, within our lifetime, but, that's still cars. And it's ugly and it's polluting and, yeah.
How do you see this future of the student loan program? Because I think it affects a lot of students as to where they go and what kind of education they get.
Well, we'll see how the federal government, their budget shakes out. At the state level, we're trying to protect all the financial aid that we have right now. I mean, UConn itself gives financial aid, and then we have state financial aid. So we're trying to protect all that as this legislative session wears on. And I hope that the federal government will, increase the amount to college loans. I mean, Obama increased the amount that's in Pell, which is vitally important. That's for the poorest students. We have a lot of students who are Pell eligible and who get, thousands of dollars a year toward their tuition. UConn's tuition it's a real bargain. I know it sounds high, but relative to our peers, flagship research institutions, the universities that we compete with, certainly with the privates, we're doing really well in keeping that down as best we can. So if you're in state here, it's $25,000 all in, pretty much. So that's tuition, fees, room and board. And most of the students don't pay that. So they're, large majority, they either have financial aid from the university, loans, grants from the state, federal government grants. So there's a lot of that kind of tuition discounting, which is good. It's important because even though $25,000 might be okay for a upper middle class family and be a real bargain, and we have plenty of people that can pay that and more. For a lot of people, it's a struggle. One of the things we worked on, and I think we do well in, is there are students that come in with a certain financial aid package and then something bad happens while they're here. Parent loses a job, a parent died, they just find themselves in a different financial situation. And so we have emergency funding for those students so that, so they don't have to stop, their education because of that. UConn is still a place where if you're, a poor student or working class, you can still work your way through the university and come out with not too much debt. So one of the statistics that university presidents keep a very close eye on is how much debt students leave with when they leave a university. And we're pretty far below the national average with the student debt that students leave with, but it's a continuing struggle, especially the state. So we're trying to keep that down, but very important to us. Yeah? Did you have a question?
Yeah, how's the contact park coming?
The which?
The contact park,
Oh, the tech park.
the tech park.
Yeah, so, the tech park it's really one building. Maybe that's it. Yeah. The tech park is the dream thing that we call it. So the first building in it, the first of many, is called the Innovation Partnership Building. Coming along really great, so that'll open in August. And it's heavily engineering right now, but I think we'll have more of the life sciences in it as well. It's faculty, but also corporate partner researchers from companies will be there too. And so it's meant to be a space for industry-university collaboration. So yeah, it's going to be a tremendous facility. It's going to be a way to attract more and better scientists, and also we hope research grants to the university. So that's a project that's going well. Yeah.
No, I'll say.
Oh, yeah.
I've got a couple of questions, one for the educator and the other for the political scientist. A couple of weeks ago, I read an article in the New York Times about the lack of basic English skills in the city university, which included the 4 years as well as the community college, entering students to the point where, I don't remember the exact numbers, but in excess of 50% were having to take some remedial basic English to cope with freshman studies. How much of a problem is this? Why are these kids ever getting a high school diploma to begin with? I mean, it's as if the high schools say, well, you've been here for so many years, we have to get rid of you.
Right. So, because this has gotten to be a very competitive place, UConn's hard to get in here, we don't see a huge amount of that. I mean, we certainly have students, and I've had students here who their writing could be a lot better. I mean, we don't have many students who are illiterate or who are not, who don't look like they just graduated from high school. So we don't have a lot of that, but where we do, we try to catch it early when in freshman first semester and get them help. We have a writing center to work with them intensely. International students, I mean, that's a challenge, because they come here, they're reading, they can read English really well, and they may be strong in mathematics or the sciences, but their written English, their spoken English needs work. So we have special programs for that. But yeah, that hasn't, as a matter of fact, here's a really nice anecdote. So I was having lunch the other day with one of our adjunct professors. She's a very accomplished person in foreign policy from Washington, and she lives in Greenwich now, but she wants to teach a class for us most years. So this was her first year she taught here, and it's a course on nuclear proliferation and arms control and American foreign policy. So she taught, they were mostly sophomores and junior political science students. She had 40 of them. And the last 4 years before she came to UConn to do this course, had taught at the Naval Academy in Annapolis. And I said, so how do our students compare with those midshipmen, and she said, they are just as smart, their writing is just as good, and then she said that they are extremely engaged. And that our students know a lot about the political world, and she was really, taken aback by their engagement, their interest. So I don't know, I was just really pleased to hear that especially their writing and their argumentation was as good as she found at the Naval Academy, because it's a pretty high standard there. So yeah, we definitely have cases, we have issues, we try to catch them early, but I don't think it's as big a problem for us as it may be in some of the community colleges or the city colleges.
My political science question, and it's probably my ignorance more than anything else, is what's the history of the filibuster? And how is it possible that we can say, last year you needed 3 outs, or 3 strikes and you're out, but this year it's gonna be 4 strikes, and in 2 years maybe it'll be 2 strikes. I mean, why is this so able to be manipulated? Why was it ever set up, and then how can it be overridden from one president's term to the next?
Yeah, I mean, majorities are just incredibly powerful, and they can set their own rules, and this stuff is not constitutional. I mean, these are like local rules, like we have rules at our organization, and so they haven't eliminated the filibuster for legislation, just for the court appointments, which is not good. And I mean, I think the senators, after they did it last week or the week before, I think all of them were unhappy with it. I mean, they see that there has to be, as the founding fathers, and whatever mechanism that is, some check on majorities. And you ever hear of Alexis de Tocqueville? He was a great, kind of observer of America from France, and he wandered through the United States pre-Civil War. And he said, America is great, it's beautiful, it's tremendous, but they got some real problems. Number 1 being slavery. Number 2 being the potential for a tyranny of the majority, whether in state houses or in legislatures or just in local communities. And that is a kind of a built-in danger of democracy that needs checks on it. And I think you see the Senate, which is our most important body, struggling with it. And the House does not struggle with it because they're a different kind of body. But the Senate, I think, is trying to find their way back to a stability that they once had and a cooperation, and it's not going great.
Some of them, some of them.
Some of them are,
Not finding
some of them,
it.
some are not, and they're, no, it's worrisome time, and one of the things that I wanna do here in the fall at UConn is we are very, in our campus, we are pretty ideologically homogenous here. I mean, this is a very blue state. The campus is, as you probably saw during the primaries, was heavily for Bernie. I mean, you can't count it, but I could see it. Students were very excited about Sanders, then, they're mostly ended up voting for Clinton from the way I could see it. And we do need to get some oppositional voices. We need to hear about the rest of America. So get some ideas for big speakers to bring in the fall who will shake it up a little bit and, try to help us understand, other people's views. I mean, whether it's middle America or right here in this community, because this has been in a traditionally Democratic area. So, we need to, as worrisome as the environment is, we have to look at ourselves too and see whether we really have the openness for understanding others or if we're just yeah.
With respect to undergraduate tuition and revenues to the university, how dependent is the university on out-of-state tuition, given the amount that it is compared to in-state? Because I have, over the years heard different things, and having been a high school teacher, have seen kids that I really thought would be able to go to UConn, but they didn't get in, and their SAT scores were high, great kids, but they went on to other universities and did very well. I've always heard that. I don't know if that's true. Is there a certain ratio of in-state versus out-of-state at the undergraduate level, or does it?
Yeah, we try to keep it about 80-20. So that's what it is for all the campuses taken together. And I have to say that the numbers are such, and we were very careful with the incoming freshman classes. We want to make sure there's none of that where some qualified Connecticut student somehow got squeezed out by a full-paying student from out of state or out of country. So while you'll see more international students, they're not taking seats of Connecticut students. In fact, we're finding that a big challenge for us is keeping the high SAT ambitious students in Connecticut. I mean, that's where if we could figure out a way to keep all those students here and give them the kind of financial aid we need, then we'd like to see the number of in-state students go up. We are on the other hand though, as Eastern Connecticut, like, we're not the most cosmopolitan place in the world. So it is, it is nice to have so many, students, from elsewhere, out of state and out of country. And I think they bring a kind of diversity to the student body that makes, college worth going to. And the students today, when you poll them across universities, across the country, diversity of the student body is one of the things they're looking for. I mean, students don't even want to come to an institution that doesn't have a lot of mixes of races, ethnicities, country of origin. So we got to keep a balance, but we are still the flagship for this state. And students who are qualified, who can make the mark, they deserve to come here.
And I guess I misspoke a little bit. I guess I was more concerned about students that couldn't come to the main campus, but would go, maybe they're accepted at Avery Point or something like that, and they live right in the area.
Yeah.
So they may have wanted to live on campus, but they may have commuted here, and Avery, depending on where they live, is a pretty good drive, and maybe a dangerous one sometimes in the winter. So I guess is it still 80-20 for those as well, or?
Yeah, it's 80-20 for all the undergraduate student body taken together. It has, but there's no high, it's gotten hard, it's gotten to be a better university. And it is much more competitive to get in. And I do, I get some angry mail this time of year from, people who, they had another student here 10 years ago who got in, and their current child, the child going to college now, is as good a student or maybe even better, and they did not get admission. And it's because we're just, we're getting pounded by applications. I mean, we had, for this freshman class, that we just accepted, and we'll see, exactly who puts down their deposit by May 1. But it was 35 or 36,000 applications for, at stores, about 4,500 seats.
Wow.
So, all of our success also means that, we get to be more selective, and, and so it's gotten tougher. And when I meet high school students and middle school students, I tell them, and they wanna come to UConn, I say, you gotta keep your grades up. I mean, and the nice thing about Connecticut, I have to say, relative to some of the other states I've worked in, is the transferability. We really have the system down for the transfer. I mean, if you go to, suppose you don't get into UConn right out the door, and if you go to Manchester Community College and you do really well, you get in here automatically. So that is a pretty seamless transfer. Most of your credits transfer, and it's the same with our regional campuses. So we have that. So I always tell students to don't give up hope about coming to stores. And it's funny, some of them end up, they go to Avery Point or they go to Stanford, and then they don't want to come up here. So that happens too, but yeah.
How many, for those 4,500 positions, how many acceptances do you send out? And are you ever in a position where we got more acceptances than we can accommodate?
Yeah, I don't have those numbers with me, but it's a worrisome game.
Okay.
Played by the people in enrollment
I'm hoping
management.
it's not
It's
like
an
the
art,
United
not a
Airlines
science.
where you pull them out the door.
Yeah, it's an art, not a science. Sometimes you hit it right on the head. We've been doing pretty well the last few years, but we had one year where we had, way more students accepted than we predicted by our model. And so the crunch comes in class size, of course, and in housing. So it was, I think 2 years ago, we had to make, turn a lot of dorm rooms that are doubles into triples and that sort of thing. And that shakes out in January because there's some attrition and moving around, moving off campus and all that. But, and we, the price comes down. I mean, if it's a double room and you find yourself with 3 people, then you're paying less for housing. And, the students, especially new students, freshmen coming, I mean, I'm amazed at how, flexible they are. I mean, they really, they want to be here, they want to be together. I don't know, they have a lot of, you could not live in a room. I don't think you could probably live in with 2 other people in a room that is, an 1/8 of the size of this one. I don't know how they do it, but I guess we were 18 once. So we did that stuff. Yeah.
I noticed on campus the other day that there are cameras going up at all the traffic lights. And I wondered, is that a red light camera to catch those who go through, or is it for safety over the university traffic control? It was interesting to see, and it looks like they're going on every light on 195, and I'm not sure about the rest of campus.
Yeah, I think it's for security, safety. I don't think it's for catching speeders, because I don't know that that we have the manpower to chase those people down, or that the state police do. But I'll look into that. I should know. But I think it's more for playing back if there's an accident, what really happened, and security. But it's a good question. Oh, time for one more. Okay, or now a really hard one. Yeah, you're the closer.
Just
No,
just
these are
a
great
comment
questions.
and a question, but the comment is I taught at State University down the street, and I found students who were interested in actuarial work or statistics. I encouraged them, and they had a smooth transfer into UConn as juniors, and I was really pleased with that. But the question I have is one that I expected someone to perhaps ask earlier, and that is about what you have referred to in the past as UConn's front porch, and which is sports. And of course, we all love Gino, but more so, we actually love the girls who play for him because they're all like our granddaughters.
They're amazing.
Yes.
So, I can't believe I went 6 or 7 hours today without talking about athletics. My president at UConn, that's just a very weird day. So thanks for getting it back to normal. And I saw Gino, I had a drink with Gino on Monday night just to catch up, because I went out to the Final Four and all, but you don't want to bother them. But he is just, you know, he's in a great way, and we are so incredibly proud of those women. And I think Gino has done more for women and women's athletics more generally than anybody in the country. And hopefully some of you saw the HBO series that they did about the women's team, which was really stunning. That reached tens and tens of millions of people. I mean, everybody in Connecticut knows about them, but this really showed the world. So athletics is it is our front porch. It's true for Michigan, Ohio State, Stanford, you know, all these places where, you know, this is a very sports-minded country, and it's how you grab the attention of so many people that wouldn't otherwise know about your university. So we take that, we like that. I mean, the trick for us on the academic side is taking all that interest and turning it into applications to the university, into faculty who want to come here, and people who want to relocate to Connecticut and make it their home. So, you know, sports I see as a way to pull people into the big academic place that we are. There are people in the state, you know, nobody in this area, because you guys really appreciate our student athletes, but you know, there are people in the state that think of us more like a sports entertainment complex than a university. You know, and every once in a while I do get asked, someone asked me about the women's team, so what do they do between games? Well, they're student athletes. And we have had, the last few years, you know, really since I've been here, we have had, you know, so few academic problems with our athletes across the board. Even football, I know that they're, you know, they need to win, but I will tell you that we had hardly any academic struggles at all with our football team, and that's gigantic. I mean, that rarely happens. It's 85 guys. It's like a corporation, and all doing their studies, all keeping up with their work, and so that makes us really proud. And that's the only way to have a college athletics program. We wouldn't want it any other way. So you guys ask the best questions. No, you do, because I go around the country and see UConn alums and others, and this is the most informed group, and I think the highest IQ. I'll throw that in too. You guys didn't give you the test.
Well, our president now is caught up to our provost, who has been here twice, and this is really the evidence when Dean Dr. Teitelbaumer shows up that you will have 2 cups.
Oh, excellent! We give our dueling cups. That's
And you
great.
actually, and there is a ceremonial pen that goes with it.
Wonderful.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thanks so much.